This is Steve Zeltzer with Flashpoints Radio, and this afternoon we're talking with Dan Coffman, who is the president of ILWU Local 21 in Longview, Washington, and their local is facing a major battle, in fact, a labor war over their right to have their union at the grain terminal. Also joining us is Jack Heyman, retired ILWU Local 10 longshoreman. Welcome to both of you on the show today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Steve.
Now, Dan, why don't you talk about the circumstances of the struggle that you're in with this grain terminal operator and how this came about?
What we have here is basically three corporations, huge corporations, conglomerates, that have built this elevator in our community. And who they are is it's 51% ownership is Bunge, and 29% ownership of this is Tochu out of Japan. And the third one is STX Pan Ocean, which is a Korean-based shipping company. And what we're dealing with here is this what I call is a three-headed monster. I mean, these people are so big, and what they've done is they come into our community and built this elevator. They negotiated a lease agreement with the Port of Longview, which we've had a working relationship with the Port of Longview for over 80 years. And in this lease agreement is our working agreement. It's contained into the lease, but these three companies do not want to recognize that in the lease. And this is what we're dealing with, and they don't want to recognize what's in that lease agreement. They're claiming that they do not have to use our company or our union whatsoever. And what they've done in the meantime is subcontracted through a different contractor called General Construction out of Seattle, and who they employ is operating engineers. In the state of Washington and the state of Oregon, it's operating engineers is basically licensed as a construction company. That's what they do. They do not operate grain facilities. It's something that we have done since 1934. We're the ILWU that has operated these facilities, and that's one of the problems. But our main focus isn't so much on general construction and 701. Our main focus here is EGT and what they've done to our community.
Well, they've said that they wanted to be the Walmart of grain terminal operators. What does that mean?
Well, let's just figure out what that does mean. I mean, I've negotiated with these people for probably 14 months, and it took us over a year's time before they would ever set an agreement down in front of us to work off of. If you've seen what they were asking for, it is the Walmart of grain companies. They didn't want to pay any overtime. They wanted a 12-hour day, split 2 shifts. What I mean by no overtime is they did not want to pay no overtime. They wanted to pay just straight time only. And what they did is they took a working week and they split it between 2 weeks where they could get under the 40-hour threshold of Washington state law that would say that anything over 40 hours is time and a half. So what they would do is they would start a crew on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday at straight time, give you the option of working Sunday or not working Sunday, and then follow that right back up with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the following week, and each of those weeks would be split in half, 36 hours. They'd never get over the 36-hour threshold. So you got Walmart mentality.
And they've spent a lot of money building this terminal, and they seem to have money to build this terminal. Do you think that they want to bust the ILWU and weaken the whole coast-wide contract?
You know, this is what this is all about. It's not about money. You know, they're claiming right now that it's going to cost the ILWU an extra $20 an hour in our benefits. But in negotiating with these people, they got off that topic throughout the negotiations. It was never an issue. Now they're claiming it is an issue. What we have to understand here is this company, they spent $200 million to build this facility here. And what they didn't do is they didn't use anybody in this community to help build it. We were facing double-digit unemployment in our community. It was ranging anywhere from like 13 to 15% on whose figures you would use. They didn't even use people in the state hardly to build this thing. They brought in all right-to-work state people to build this facility.
So these were non-union people that they brought into Washington to build this?
Exactly. When you went over there at a shift change and watched the cars come out of this facility, there weren't no license plates from Washington and Oregon coming out of this place. They were from every right-to-work state you can think of. They even went so far as to bring in 150 Guatemalans into our country to help do the concrete pouring of these silos. It was a continuous pour operation, and they brought 150 people from outside this country into our community to do this work when we got people sitting here at home without a job. To me, that's very unpatriotic. But yet at the same time, they want to try to convince the community about we're here for the community, look what we're going to do for the community. But all throughout the building of this project, the community wasn't involved whatsoever. I had a town hall meeting here where I invited all the wholesale suppliers in our community to that meeting, and a lot showed up. And I asked every one of them, I said, what did you guys get out of this project? And every one of them looked at me and they said, not very much.
Now, the union has taken some action. You're picketing. You've blocked the railroad, some of the railroad's cars from coming in, and there have been arrests, and now you're facing a federal injunction. What's been going on in regard to that?
Well, what we do as a union is we exercise our constitutional right to free assembly and to picket. What we did is all of our protests were basically nonviolent protests. The only time things got heated up was when the police force instigated it to us. The day that they took Big Bob down to the ground, which is our international president, the only thing I want to thank the Sheriff's Department in our community for is sending a message to the world about what took place. Every confrontation that we've had is because of the militia that's come forth to the union and instigated things. What's happened here in the meantime is that we had our Sheriff's Department and our City Police Department here tracking us down like we're convicted felons or something. We had people drug out of their cars roughed up. We had people drug out of their homes roughed up. We've had people sitting in the streets waiting for us at night. We had Sheriff's Departments, officers shining spotlights into people's houses till 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, this type of behavior is aggressive. It's very, some of the tactics they use against my membership has been very abusive, very intimidating, and it's totally uncalled for. What's become clear to us is that our sheriff department and our city police department now is a special security force for this EGT, this foreign corporation that's now come into our community, and they're wasting hundreds of taxpayers' dollars on this stuff of trying to round us up, which basically all we've been cited for to this point is just simple citations. It's crazy. But at the same token, we have to understand that these three giant conglomerates have come into here, and what have they done? They've hired a special response corporation out of Baltimore, Maryland, which is basically a Pinkerton outfit that has come into our community and tries to shine as much bad light onto the ILWU as possible. And then on top of that, they've hired another outside firm called Luck Media out of Atlanta, Georgia, to help spin their PR against the union. You know, it comes back, if you keep telling the community and the people daily over and over, bad ILWU, they're thugs or whatever. I mean, the people start hearing this on a daily basis. It reminds me of Fox News. Pretty soon they start believing it. And this is what we're dealing with. I have a 200-member local. There's no way in the world that I can outspend Bunge. There's no way I can outspend ITOCHU. There's no way I can outspend Pan Ocean. I can't compete with them on a PR basis, and it's just crazy. But they work together to try to paint you in a bad light, to where they try to convince people that we're the bad guys, when actually the bad guys is Bunge. If you look at what Bunge's done throughout their history of their existence, they are a very dark company. Right now in Argentina, I mean, they got almost a $300 million lawsuit against the country of Argentina against them because of tax evasions from 2007 to 2009. What else have they got going on is that they got caught by the Commodities Exchange Commission here in the United States and fined over $500,000 for trying to manipulate opening soybean prices.
So they sound like a criminal operator and are using a lot of harassment and terror against your local. Now, what kind of support have you gotten from the rest of the labor movement?
You know, we got so much labor support throughout the West Coast, throughout the world now. And just like I said before, when they took Big Bob to the ground, that sent a message to the world. I mean, every union in the world looked at that, and you cannot believe the response that we've got. I mean, the ILA is behind us 100%. Ken Riley...
That's the International Longshoremen's Association on the East Coast.
Yes, sir. Ken Riley was here, the president of Charleston, South Carolina, just last week with me for 3 days. And he brought a message from Harold Daggett, who's the president of the ILA. He says, I just want to let you know that ILA's got the ILW's back. We got the MUA that just sent us a banner here just a few days ago with their support. We got the Liverpool dock workers that have given us their support. We got the Japanese railroad people that's given us their support.
Now,
ITF is behind us. I mean, the whole world is behind us.
Now, the Oregon AFL-CIO did pass a resolution which supported you and also challenged the crossing of the picket lines by members of Operating Engineers Local 701. What was that resolution about, and what happened to it?
What it wasn't only Oregon, it was Washington also passed the same resolution. What it did is condemn 701 for basically raiding another union. And what they did is they told us that it's not right. And talking with Ed Taylor, who's the president of 612 out of Tacoma, he says, I don't understand what's going on down that way with 701. He said there's no way that the operating engineers of 612 would ever be interested in doing another union's craft. He said, I don't understand what they're doing. But what it is, it's another union raiding another union's work. And there's nothing worse than a scab, but I'll tell you what's worse than a scab is a union scab. When you have another union going through another union's picket line, that's just wrong.
Okay, somebody's breathing a little heavily, but
it's
anyway.
Okay.
And,
I get worked up.
And Richard Trumpka, the president of the AFL-CIO, rejected that. What did he say?
Well, Big Bob, our international president, sits on the executive board there, and he's just been reluctant to take a stance on that thing.
Isn't that illegal under the AFL-CIO Constitution for another union to raid work that's done by a union that's already established there?
Yes, you would think so, and they know that. And Big Bob's told them that. So, but I guess Richard Trumpka wanted us to file an Article 20, and Big Bob said, I'm not interested in the bureaucratic nonsense of what this takes. You know it's wrong, fix it. And it's pure and simple that it is wrong, and everybody knows it's wrong. But I think he's unwilling to take a stance at this point.
Okay, now, Jack, you went up to the port to support them. What's going on from your angle?
Well, what I experienced a couple weeks ago when going up to Longview was I saw a small local that's being attacked by this multinational corporation with very deep pockets. And what really amazed me is the kind of cohesiveness, solidarity within their own ranks. It reminded me a lot of some of the struggles that went on in the 70s in the coal fields, in small towns where the people all stuck together. And that was very impressive. So they've got a big battle in front of them, but I think they've got a lot of strengths as well.
And what do you think are the ways that this struggle can be won? It seems like this company has the backing of the police, the federal courts now, and the government. So how are they going to win their struggle?
Well, right. They have quite an array of opponents, but what they have on their side is what built the ILWU, in fact, built the labor movement up from the very beginning in the 30s, and they have solidarity, particularly international solidarity. But ILWU has reached out to other unions in distress when the Charleston longshoremen were under attack by their government, and sent out several hundred riot police to attack the Charleston longshoremen. We in Local 10 went to their defense. We were the first ones there, and we brought that as a cause célèbre for the labor movement. And in the end, the Charleston longshoremen prevailed. They were victorious. And just a couple months ago, Local 10 shut down all the ports here in the Bay Area. I'm sure most of the KPFA listeners are aware of that. We were the only local in the country, actually, that took job action in solidarity with the Wisconsin workers. So, if we can do that for the Charleston longshoremen, and if we can shut down the ports for the Wisconsin workers, we can do it for our own. And that's the message that has to go out up and down the coast, because, as Dan was saying, this is ILW has a coast-wide contract here. This threat against Longview isn't only against Longview. It's against every port, every longshore worker, man and woman on the West Coast. And the ILA on the East Coast sees it in the same light. This new president, Harold Daggett, just as Dan said, has given his word that if we are attacked and the word goes out to the ILA, they will shut down the ports with us. And it'll be historic because it has never happened in this country before that all ports have been shut down simultaneously. And I really think that's a possibility because people are getting fed up in this country. We have the highest poverty levels in 50 years. People are being foreclosed on their homes. Joblessness is in double figures, and it's beginning to have a ripple effect. The sense of frustration and protest is just beginning. You see the Occupy Wall Street movement that's now intersecting the labor movement, and I think whereas the workers attempted to make an effort to fight back against these attacks in Wisconsin, I believe that the Longview, even though it's a small port, represents the struggle for all working people in this country, whether you're in a union or not. Who's going to prevail? The big banks and the big industrialists, or the working class? And I think we have a chance to make some history here.
Now, Dan, what can workers do and trade unions and supporters who want to support your struggle?
Well, I think Jack said it best. I said what we're doing is we're representing all workers. This isn't ILWU. I mean, there's a lot of people in this country that are hurting right now. And you look at the downgrade of the middle class and the attack that's been happening here on the middle class. You know, I think Wisconsin said it clearly, is that I hope the big giant's waking up. But you know what? Here in Longview, the big giant is on its feet, and he's looking around right now. I think the people of this country got to realize that, you know what, the money's been going to the top 2%. The corporations and the banks have got more money than they know what to do with, and they want more money. I think the top 2% of this country is where the transfer of wealth has been going to. The other 98% of us better figure this out darn quick. And we better unite and stick together and take this fight back because America is changing right now. From when I was a kid, when I was in my 20s, in 30 years, it has changed a lot. But the working people that built this country need to take back this country, and we need to stick together, and we need to do this. I think Jack's right. I think the labor movement is going to begin right here in Longview, Washington. Wisconsin got a good start on it, but Wisconsin didn't finish the job. And believe me, my heart goes out to those people because there was hundreds of thousands of people there in Wisconsin in sub-zero degree days going back and every day for 30-plus days, back. And now we got this same thing going on here in Washington. And I think everybody's looking at us right now. But what we have to understand here and what our plight is I got a 200-member local that's trying to battle 3 giant conglomerates. And they're trying to take the pressure, put it right back on the ILWU. It's about busting a union, pure and simple. But I think people just got to understand it. It's just not the ILWU. It's every union. It's everybody that works for a living has got to stick together and say, you know what, we've had enough. The middle class and the poor have been flipping the bill for this country for the last 30 or 40 years, and we've had it up to here. We are done. And I've talked to my wife and my daughter, and I said, you know what, I don't know where this is going to go. But I said, your dad could end up being in a federal prison because what's going to happen to me is the ILWU is going to fight for its existence and it's going to fight for its jobs. And we are not going to quit. There's no way that we're going to quit this battle. We're going to take it right back to these corporations and say, you know what, foreign corporations come into America and try to set the ground rules for American workers to work by. It's not going to happen here in Longview, and it's not going to happen with the ILWU or my membership here in Longview, Washington. No way.
I wanted to just convey a sense to the public here in the Bay Area. What's going on in Longview? It's incredible. When I went there, I didn't get the full story because it was just still developing a couple weeks ago, and of course it's still going on now. But I was privileged to be there for their union meeting, and I presented a resolution of support from Local 10, was well received, and it's incredible. But during the course of the meeting, you had police cars circling the union hall. You had some police cars just stationed there filming the whole thing. When these people got arrested, they were handcuffed and then pepper sprayed. I mean, this is just incredible what's going on there. It's a virtual police state. Dan led the members up to the, I think it was the county courthouse, was it, Dan?
Yeah.
To offer themselves to be turned in. Why? Because the police were invading their homes in the middle of the night to arrest them. This is unbelievable that this kind of thing is going on. And one woman who sat down peacefully on the tracks with Dan just last week had her rotor cuff torn. She's a 57-year-old grandmother. Some of our members went to her defense and were pummeled by the police. These kinds of attacks go on daily there. Another woman, a member of the ILWU, had the police invade her house, grabbed her by the head and bashed her head into the hood of her car in the garage of her house while her daughter's looking at all this. I mean, it's an incredible police state that exists there, and the labor movement has to come together and say, no, we are not going to permit this kind of dictatorship to exist. And this is a real class struggle. I haven't seen things like this since the miners' strikes back in the 70s. These people are defying a federal injunction just the way the miners did in 78 when the Carter administration invoked Taft-Hartley against the miners. They went and did what they have to do. They defended their jobs, and that's what these people are doing. The longshore men and women up in Longview are saying we have a right to defend our jobs. We have a right to picket. This is free speech, and we intend to stand on those principles. That's what they're doing, and they need the backing of every union and working person in this country.
That's right.
You know, this thing that Dan went into about the ILWU being portrayed by the media, clearly the ILWU is not getting a fair shake in the news media up there. It is true what Dan is saying. They're being portrayed as thugs. And it so misrepresents what the ILWU stands for. The ILWU is probably the most democratic union in the country. And I know here in the Bay Area we have elections every year, not every 4 years or 6 years like some of these unions have. Not only that, the listening audience here in the Bay Area knows very well the history of the ILWU. We were the first union to integrate as a workforce. Black, white, and Mexican Americans were all able to get work on the waterfront because of the ILWU's struggle in 1934, the maritime strike. And since then, we've had a very militant and progressive history. And most recently, we shut down every port on the West Coast to oppose the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. We've gone to the aid of other unions, and to portray us as just self-serving thugs that are out for more money in their pockets is a falsification and misrepresentation of what the ILWU's proud history is.
That's right.
Okay, well, I want to thank both of you, and we'll get the word out, and the struggle obviously continues. So thanks for joining us this afternoon. Steve.